Welcome into another edition of the Cory Sanding Show, everybody. I'm your host, yours truly, as always. Taking a little bit of a break from our regularly scheduled programming today. We'll get into that why here in a minute. But for those of you that are just tuning in, happy Friday to you. It is about 6 o'clock here in the East Coast time. Trying to get this out of the way before the whole world goes crazy with an inevitable decision that's going to be made by California Superior Court here within the next couple of hours, or here within the next 30 minutes, really. But welcome in. Those of you that are just tuning in for the first time, please subscribe. Like the video if you enjoyed it, comment to boost the algorithm, and of course hit that bell button on the way out so you can get notified when I drop my weekly live content, I should say, right now. But with football season getting around the corner, we're about to ramp up our schedule, change it up a little bit, and like I said, we have a whole new platform of ways for you to support the channel that'll include both emotionally and financially, and we're also going to get into a little bit of giveaways here on the Cory Sanding Show in the near future. But starting off, as always, got to give a shout out to this episode's sponsor, brought to you by the Knoxville Ice Bears Foundation. Those of you that want to support the page and the growing foundation, link to Knoxville's very popular semi-pro hockey team, go to the Knoxville Ice Bears Foundation. You find them on Facebook. Obviously, Knoxville Ice Bears Foundation set for promoting kids to learn through the power of hockey. Champions for those in need in East Tennessee through the power of hockey is their motto. And I'm telling you, the last few months that I've been involved with them, it's been some of the greatest moments of my life, only because hearing inspirational stories from young athletes that have far more discipline than I had at that age, and getting to ice skate a little bit and learn how has been a plus. So go check them out on Facebook. Go check them out on X. Go check them out on Instagram. Hockey season's right around the corner. We'll be ramping up some of that content in the near future. But as I said earlier, we're going to be getting into a little bit of we're taking a break from the regularly scheduled sports programming. As many of you know, this is not just a sports show. This is a lifestyle show where we react to real world news that's going on in real time. And it's been no different the past few days because the Menendez brothers, if you all remember, have been back in the spotlight since the Netflix incredible Netflix series that brought their infamous case from 1989 back to, early 90s, really back to life, when they were convicted of murdering their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, at their home in Beverly Hills with shotguns. And obviously, Erik went before the parole board yesterday after all of this. Oh, Lord have mercy. Calling me at this hour. After this Netflix series, this docudrama brought the case back to light. I mean, we've seen a revival of the Jeffrey Dahmer case. We've seen a revival in the OJ fascination never really went away, but we've seen the narrative change off of a Netflix series surrounding this case. And for years and years and years, everyone believed, a second jury decided, that these two spoiled, uppity rich kids blew their parents away to take control, I guess, early on, of a $14 million inheritance that they were rumoredly, allegedly afraid to lose. The parents, Jose had been threatening to take them out of the will. Who knows, what all was true and what all wasn't. But for years and years and years, I mean, of course, they coined their original defense the abuse excuse. Actually, I believe that was Lyle that termed it that. But obviously, the facts of the case haven't changed over the years. Only the, very inconsequential amount of evidence that supposedly exists that suggests that the brothers were sexually abused at the hands of their parents. I'm personally of the belief that even if that is true, and I'm not saying it's not, it very well could be, because by all accounts, according to everyone, including the original prosecution team, Jose Menendez was an awful human being, and it was a plus for society when he made his exit. I don't mean to speak ill of the dead, but that's just what was said, and you can go watch that on the Netflix documentary as well. But since when does two wrongs make a right? That's my question. Since when does the fact that oh my gosh, and the excuse from everyone out in the world is, you can only know if you went through it. You can only logically speak on this if you went through it. No, that's not how the world works. People are allowed to comment on anything. There's a reason that most professional sports analysts, Stephen A. Smith, never played professional sports, but he comments on them every day, and he gets paid $100 million to do so. I don't understand that this softening of society that's now all of a sudden come to fruition because of, quite frankly, because of Netflix series. For those of you that actually studied this case and don't go off hearsay and looked at the facts and looked at the evidence and looked, I mean, let me just pull up this comment here. Large part of the reason that Erik wasn't granted parole, even with all this, new refounded interest in the case, you read the brothers had been planning this for weeks, if not months, prior to when this happened. Yet they claim that, oh my God, they feared for their life. So they premeditatively bought shotguns secretively. They went out that night, bought movie tickets to manufacture a fake alibi, came home, blew their point blank range with shotguns, blew their parents away. I'm not sitting here saying that what they're saying happened didn't happen, but there's not a lot of evidence that suggests that it did. And even if it did happen, like I said, that doesn't give you the right to blow your mom away with a shotgun and blow your dad's brains out. He might have been an awful human being, but let him sit and think about it in prison. Oh, they feared for their life because he was such a powerful executive. How many people testified against OJ, and he was far more powerful than Jose Menendez, and I mean, none of them ever turned up dead. Nicole and Ron may have, but that was before the trial. But read this statement. This is from Trevor Lee. For those wondering the parole board's reasoning for the denial for Erik, they indicated it was due to the murder of his mother specifically. The fact that he released the shotgun, went outside, reloaded while she was still barely clinging on to life, came back and finished her off, as well as his disciplinary record in prison. These are the stances of the Parole Commission, who had nothing to do with that case back in 30 years ago. This crime is well into history. And everyone goes, I mean, if this abuse excuse is, as they called it themselves, Lyle called it that himself. I mean, Lyle shot himself in the foot after the first trial, in which the juries it was declared a hung jury because half of them voted for manslaughter, half of them voted for first-degree murder. Obviously, that was split on gender lines because back then it wasn't really widely accepted that men could be sexually abused, even though obviously that's not true. But my whole point is, Lyle's up before the parole board now. His hearing may very well be concluded, but we haven't seen any, obviously, announcement. Should they walk free? That's the question that I'm here to decide. And be quite frankly, hell no. No. And this isn't sticking. I've seen people on X and Facebook and whatnot, pardon me, say, oh, if you stand up for this wrongful imprisonment, that it means you're sticking up for pedophiles. No, it doesn't. I just got through stating there's not one person that even the prosecution in the original case in 1992-93 could produce one witness that was a fan of Jose Menendez's. Nope, not one. His loss may very well have benefited society because by all accounts, he was not a good person. He wasn't a good to work with. He wasn't pleasant to be around at home. There's even been, another witness step forward. This claims that from a popular boy band of the 80s that claims that Jose, sexually molested him in the early 80s, which very well could be significant. But obviously the parole board didn't factor that in with Erik, and Erik's always been the one that was looked at as the guy that was kind of roped into this all by his older brother Lyle, who was really looked at as the mastermind behind everything, because by all accounts he was the one that was threatening witnesses after, and he was the one that was spending, I believe he spent more money than Erik. You got to remember, after this happened, the brothers went on this insane spending spree, buying luxury items. They were photographed on a Mark Jackson card at a courtside at a New York Knicks game in the Garden all the way across the country. I mean, if my parents had just been killed and I'm sitting there calling the police, crying, saying someone killed why lie about it? Oh, they were afraid. No, they orchestrated this murder and they didn't want to get caught. That's what happened. And when they got caught, they had to try to spin some way, some excuse that could possibly make it to where they wouldn't spend life in prison, because they weren't going for they were going from the original defense was manslaughter. And then when the second trial came around, the judge didn't allow it. And everyone says, oh, the DA was the one that didn't. No, the district attorney is on one side. The court has to hear both sides. The judge decides, not the LA district attorney's office. Did Gil Garcetti, maybe was he a little overzealous and only giving the jury the chance to either acquit or come back with a first-degree murder verdict in the second trial, which was not televised and which had precluded almost all evidence of abuse because they ruled it as hearsay and said that it wasn't, corroborated by credible witnesses. They were found guilty, and neither of them testified at their second trials. They testified in front of the cameras at their first trials, though. I mean, at the end of the day, what are we really talking about here? Two wrongs don't make a right. And when did the narrative around this crime change? And it was when this Netflix series came out, and it was when the softening of society started, which who knows when that happened, when that started in the last 10 years, 5 years, I don't know. But now, apparently, I guess, according to most Americans or a lot of Americans, that you can, if something bad happened to you, that gives you the right to do something even worse to that party. I'm stuttered a lot here just because I just don't get it. In a lot of ways, we haven't changed from that time. You look at the racial division and the racial lines that divided the O.J. Simpson case. It might be just as bad today, if not worse than it was back then, because, racial injustice still is very much a thing. But, I mean, at least in the O.J. trial, you had some element of masterful lawyering that produced maybe a reasonable doubt for a jury that wanted to find any semblance of a reasonable doubt. So they didn't have to convict OJ. Or maybe it was payback for Rodney King, as some of the jurors have come out since then in the recent years and have admitted. Who knows? But there wasn't this huge miscarriage of justice here with these two rich, uppity white kids from Beverly Hills that had it all growing up. Even if these claims of abuse are true, and I'm not saying that it's entirely possible that they're not. That doesn't give you the right to go premeditatively plan to blow someone's head off with a shotgun. It just doesn't. Oh, their mom turned the other way. That's why she deserved to get shot dozens of times and watch her son come back and finish her off. I mean, okay. I don't know. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this because I know there's a lot of soft-ass people in this world that just turn a blind eye to bad things and try to make excuses for every single person that, it's like, we need to get back to shaming in some regard. And I don't mean cyberbullying. I don't mean bullying. I mean, what's bad needs to be looked at as bad. You can't be, I see all kinds of females on social media always talking about, and praising their friends' bad behaviors because there's some excuse of something that happened to them 10 years ago. And, you go, girl. I mean, it's the same thing when it comes to dudes. I mean, us guys, until we finally have that reckoning moment when you realize that you don't need to be trying to go out and bang everything that moves, then you start getting on your friends when they start doing shit like that. It just comes a point in time where you have to end, and by the letter of the law, you got to do what's right. I mean, hell, just imagine if these abuse claims were true and they did it the right way and they took down a big executive and did it, put them in jail, and they would have been heroes. But now people are saying they're heroes because society is so much different than it was back then. Back then they did. I mean, there was a line in the original trial from head prosecutor. I can't even think of her name right now because she's irrelevant. She lost the biggest case of her life. But she said that men don't have the tools to be raped or to be assaulted. Pardon me. That's bullshit. We all know that. But that was a widely held belief in the 90s. But that doesn't mean that there's this a mountain of evidence that suggests that this stuff actually happened. Maybe three pieces. Okay, this person said this. It's not corroborated by, and it's not a written statement. It's not a recorded statement. I mean, ultimately, this free the Menendez movement that started in the past few years. It's just fueled by a Netflix series that took on creative liberties. And, not everything you see on Netflix is true, by the way. There were so many things in the People versus O.J. Simpson, which is fantastic, won multiple Emmys and Golden Globes, that didn't happen in the actual case. People that think O.J.'s innocent, I mean, do with what you please. But as of right now, it doesn't appear that actually I'm going to go check live as we speak to see if we have any decision in the Lyle Menendez parole hearing, just because you never know when stuff like this is going to break. And yeah, it doesn't appear like we have a decision yet. Lyle Menendez will face the parole board shortly per his disciplinary records. I'm no sure of the dates, but he had 5 violations in prison: cell phone, misuse of state phones, possession of a lighter, receiving new shoes from a female visitor, and refusing an order. No fights in 36 years. I'll give you that. Maybe Lyle's prison disciplinary record will see him in more of a favorable light of the parole board, but I think what's going to come back to bite him is that he ultimately was the real mastermind behind all of this. And if you go back and look at every piece of evidence in the case, it was fully suggests that Erik was brought along for the ride and probably felt like he had no way out. That doesn't excuse what he did, because he was ultimately the one that went outside, reloaded, came back and finished his mom off. I mean, he can say all he wants from prison now, saying, "Oh, I regret it, I can't believe it," but that split second, I mean, he knew that she'd be able to point to him if she would have survived anyway, because she had been blown to pieces. But because he knew that she knew who her attackers were, and her attackers were her 2 sons, and she'd be able to point that out. So he came back and finished her off. And then they went on this exuberant spending spree, buying cars, hiring a private tennis coach. Erik went to Israel. He was a talented tennis player. He was in Israel training to play tennis, while Lyle was back here buying, coffee franchises and restaurants and $1,000 Rolexes, or multiple $1,000 Rolexes. It just doesn't seem like behavior from kids that are grieving. I know that if my parents, heaven forbid, knock on wood, passed away and left me an exuberant amount of money, I'd much rather have my parents around for 100 years than get any sort of, any bit of financial enrichment off of their passing. But ultimately, that's what happened in this case, and history is going to look back on this as something, because I don't think Lyle's going to get out. I think it's telling that if Erik didn't, that Lyle likely won't. Could I be wrong? Yeah, and if I am, I'll come down here and eat crow. But I know this probably isn't the opinion that some people would probably like to hear, because everyone likes to hear the presumption of innocence, and I'm sorry, I'm just not buying it. I've read too much about this case, and I've studied it. Got to forget, at one point, I mean, and I'm still considering it, I wanted to go to law school. I've taken the LSAT. I got a very high score on that LSAT too. But at the end of the day, I just go by logic and common sense. And logic and common sense says that 2 people that blew their parents' heads off with shotguns in the dead of night when they were sitting there eating ice cream, watching TV, are still dangerous to society. OJ butchered 2 people with a knife, and he didn't go to prison for it because he was acquitted. But I mean, he was still a dangerous society when he got out on parole. Yeah, he was old, and he didn't end up doing anything too dumb. But I guess it just depends on how you look through the lens of society nowadays. Like I said, there's people out there that make excuses for every single wrong action that someone does, and I know there's some people out there that could be watching this, or that could be, thinking, "Oh, what the hell is this guy talking about? He's done his player." Yeah, I have. I've done my fair share of bad. And ultimately, it's not who I wanted to be remembered as being, is someone that, continuously did bad things and then tried to make excuses for them. So I got over that phase. I left that guy behind. And now I just look at everything logically. And I don't let my male anatomy control my thinking. And I don't let what others think of me have any toll on what I do in my everyday life. It's the reason why I do this podcast now, and I'm not afraid to talk about whatever's happened in my life. And I'm proud of my recovery journey from the person I was a few years ago to the person I am now. But Lyle and Erik Menendez deserve to be right where they're at. And As far as I'm concerned, another few years before another parole hearing would do them good. They're getting older. They're not going to be around for much longer. Maybe they're physically incapable of doing it. Maybe they have changed, but that doesn't mean that you get to walk away from something like this. You just don't. Murdering is it's the worst crime you can commit. Two wrongs don't make a right, people. And the sooner the sooner we realize that, the sooner maybe our justice system will not be, even though I think it's the best one in the world, the sooner it will be more fair across the board. And you keep focus on the issue at hand. And the issue at hand here was the murder of two people. Regardless of what you think of them, they may not have been the best people in the world. Kitty Menendez may have turned a blind eye, which is wrong. Jose Menendez probably was a horrible human being. He was. But premeditatedly murdering two people is a crime that you typically pay for with life behind bars. I mean, we even saw it just here in East Tennessee within the last year. Megan Boswell, who was practically a Casey Anthony repeat. I don't know. She was trying to basically the same thing, dumped her kid in a trash can. We all saw the pictures and got life with the possibility of parole after just, tossing her baby aside like she was nothing and then lying about it for over a month. I mean, where are we at in society where we have softened up so much that we don't have a backbone just to say, okay, man, I really want to like this person, but what he did was wrong. Who knows if we'll ever get back to that. And like I said, there's going to be so many people. I guarantee there's going to be so many people that disagree with what I say just because everyone right now is so sensitized to what they see on Netflix. That was I guess the Jeffrey Dahmer case was the Jeffrey Dahmer series was the only one that didn't change anyone's opinions because there was no changing his opinion because he actually came out and, admitted everything because he knew what he did was wrong. I mean, is that the only opinion that didn't change? I mean, people are divided on OJ. That'll always be a thing, even though I think it's obvious what happened there. And then the people haven't forgotten about the Menendez brothers for years until this Netflix documentary came out. I mean, it wasn't a national topic anymore because everyone just accepted these guys are going to be in prison for the rest of their life. Then all of a sudden, some letter comes out, which is allegedly written from Erik to his cousin, and he allegedly mentions the abuse. And like I said, even if that is true, and I'm not saying it's 1,000% that it's not true that stuff happened or abuse did happen, it doesn't give you a right to blow your parents' head away with a shotgun. I think I've said that 4 times now. It doesn't give you a right to blow anyone's head off with a shotgun. Go do your due process. Like I said, if people weren't there were some people that didn't testify against OJ because they were his friend, but if people weren't afraid to testify against one of the most beloved figures in America, afraid to testify against Jose Menendez, I could go on and on about the overwhelming evidence that pointed to these guys being right where they're at. And the fact that we glorify killers is just insane to me. We really have not come far as a society, but we give these people the benefit of the doubt at our own peril. And that's all I really have to say about that. You can be a part of the Free the Menendez movement. I'm not going to sit here and say you're completely wrong, but I'm going to sit here and say you're definitely I'm questioning your morality. Because you're basically saying that one excuses the other, and it doesn't. They've served enough time. Nobody serves enough time for taking someone's life. Like, it's not like they, hit them with a car or, heaven forbid, tried to poison them. The ultimate surprise attack in the most brutal way. The only thing that would have been worse is if they would have stabbed him to death. And then went back out, came back home, forged a fake alibi. Like I said, already had bought the movie tickets to make it look like they weren't home at the time of the killings. and then go on a lavish spending spree and say they don't know what happened. I mean, if any logical person's coming from a place of innocence to where they firmly believe that what they did was justified, they're not going to run and they're not going to lie. And then, of course, everyone is going to come on and just piggyback off what I just said and said, "Oh, well, you've never been there, man. It forces people to lie and do wrong things when you've had trauma. I've had plenty of trauma happen to me, and I used it as an excuse for my wrongs for so long, and then I finally snapped out of it and realized how stupid I sounded for bringing up something that's completely unrelated to the decision I just made and saying that was a reason for me to be a bad person. That is asinine logic. And if you think that way, I mean, I feel sorry for you genuinely. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they're still behind bars, and we're going to see what happens with Lyle, because if justice will be done, the Menendez brothers will stay in prison. Okay. On to the next, because I'm sure and I'm reading some of your guys' comments. I'm surprised I haven't gotten more hateful comments about premeditated AF. They called 911 saying someone broke in and killed their parents. Yes. Thank you, Rodney, by the way. Appreciate that. Thank you for tuning in. But yeah, I wanted to get that off my chest. I'm sure there's going to be people that are not going to like what I have to say, but I just keep it real. And honestly, it's not what you want to hear, but it's what you need to hear. All right. So we're going to get into some lighter-hearted topics now. Back to the sports. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. As you all know, I might be the biggest Cincinnati Bengals hater on the internet, and I proudly wear that badge and wear that hat till the day I die. Well, according to Sports Illustrated, a story recently, the Bengals, Boomer Esiason, they're until Joe Burrow and maybe, I guess one hit wonder, but, one of the only quarterbacks in franchise, the only NFL MVP in Bengals history, says the Bengals are not offering to pay for his hotel room and his travel to attend the Ring of Honor ceremony this year. And it was further supported by this email. This is this is from an anonymous source I cannot reveal. This is included in the Bengals emails to said people invited to these ceremonies. The Bengals organization is excited to celebrate our Legends community and kindly invite you and a guest to join us in celebrating Dave Lapham and Lamar Parrish on Ring of Honor weekend in October, culminating in our game on Sunday, October 26th, when the Bengals take on the New York Jets. More details are below, and we kindly ask you to RSVP no later than Friday, August 22nd. You and a guest can receive 2 complimentary tickets with an opportunity to purchase an additional one if you wish. Oh, okay. Well, at least they got tickets to the game. If you are traveling in for the weekend from out of town, we have secured a block of rooms at the Renaissance Hotel at a preferred discounted rate. A preferred discounted rate. Rooms are limited, so please book directly for the early and the best rate. We look forward to hosting you in the jungle for an unforgettable weekend. Don't hesitate to reach out to me or another guy on the staff with any questions. Who says another guy on the staff? I could put together a more professional email than this. Thank you and hooday. I mean, the grammar there is just horrible, but not paying for hotels and I'm sorry. There was a list on Facebook. I think I might have posted it on one of the shows. It was on social media that ranked the most wealthy owners from the most wealthy to least wealthy. And there was just one team that I remember not being on there yet again, because their ownership family is not worth more than $1 billion. And granted, can't always hold that against the Brown family, but they're a mom and pop shop. And this is just another example of that. I mean, you can't afford to pay for it. First off, they don't give 3 meals a day. They've complained about that. I think they've got rated an F in nutrition. They make their players, they've made them buy Gatorade. They've made them buy their own equipment. Used equipment in the locker room. They didn't get an indoor practice facility until the past few years, and they were in Southwest Ohio. Southwest Ohio gets cold as balls in the winter. I'm telling you right now. Oh, I don't miss that. I mean, it gets pretty cold here in East Tennessee too, but not like it did up in Ohio. I don't miss that weather whatsoever. But this is the same narrative. I mean, it's just, I could imagine having the goal, the gumption to root for a franchise like that's owned or an ownership group like this. Most Bengals fans that I know that are moderately intelligent, there are some of you out there that are smart, but they don't like the Brown family, and the Bengals are never going to succeed. I mean, have you seen how their starting offensive line looked last preseason game? Have you seen how their starting defense is getting sliced up? It's even worse than before. And they're likely not going to retain Trey Hendrickson. And even if they do, he's not going to make that much of a difference. Trey Hendrickson, Joe Burrow, and honestly, a lot of this is at the foot of Joe Burrow too, because he went on that huge media tour during Super Bowl weeks. He knew everybody would be watching and pressured the organization basically with a knife at their throat to sign his 2 receivers. I mean, of course, I'd want to sign both of my guys, but at the end of the day, you need some money on that defensive side of the football. You're not going to strike gold in the draft all the time. And you might not even have struck gold with Shamar Stewart because he's more of a raw prospect that was, had a great showing at the combine than anything. And the combine, how can you judge how great someone's going to be as a pro at the combine? And they just blew it all on. That's why, and honestly, that's why I think that T. Higgins' contract, if you really look at the language in there, it's only really guaranteed for this year. They can cut bait with T. Higgins after this year if they choose so. And I honestly think they should, because you need some talent on the defensive side of the ball. But that's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is that the Bengals can't pay for hotel rooms and a plane ticket for their legends. I mean, would they do that for Ocho Cinco? I would surely hope so. No one capes for the Bengals more than he does, including Boomer. But from the outside looking in, I just don't. Like I said, they cheat the taxpayers of Hamilton County to get that stadium, which still needs upgrades. And I finally are spending a little bit of money, but ultimately now I think it's going to be the reason that I don't think Joe Burrow will ever win a Super Bowl in Cincinnati is because of this ownership group. And it's the same reason that the team in the mid to late 2000s that could have been really, really good for a long time didn't ultimately get over the hump and even win one playoff game. And you can go to that now almost long away Super Bowl run and be like, oh, wow, the Bengals have Cory, you're a Ravens fan. The Bengals have more playoff wins than the Ravens in the past few years. Okay, well, we won't get into the circumstances surrounding how the Bengals won the division or won some of those playoff games, but I can certainly assure you that the way this is going, it's not going to – I don't think I don't even think the Bengals are going to make the playoffs this year. Maybe I'll be wrong because their offense will buy them some extra wins, but we'll see. We'll see. All right. Another topic that's been heavy on a lot of East Tennesseans' minds lately and a lot of Big Orange Nation across the country is Tennessee switching to Adidas after this year, back to Adidas as his primary apparel partner, provider, I should say. 10-year contract worth about roughly $20 million a year. I wasn't happy about it. Still am somewhat unhappy about it. Only if they get it right and they make Tennessee their Oregon and give them new stuff every game. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I haven't thought about wearing Adidas and I don't know how long. Maybe since I thought I was Run DMC, I wanted to wear shell toes with a dookie chain and a Kango hat and big, thick Rev Run glasses, but that was 15 years ago. But news broke just recently. We're going to take a look at this. This is by Vol Report. All Vol Report on Twitter. Tennessee's old deal with Nike was worth about $5.5 million per year. Their new tenure with Adidas is reportedly close to $20 million annually, with a portion going directly to athletes, which is great. I'll give them that. That's another reason why I've started to come around on this deal a little bit. I'm all for the athlete getting paid. Transition this over to what Ben Portnoy had to say about South Carolina's new deal with Nike. Very interesting. $500,000 a year. That's it in cash. $5 million over 10 years. What? That's a fourth of what Tennessee's is per year. Asia Wilson and her gear will be integrated in Gamecocks basketball. Okay, that's good. They will receive an alternate uniform. That's it. Tennessee gets unlimited ultimate uniforms. But I'm on the side of Nike because they don't. I mean, I'm not on the side of Nike and lowballing people, but they don't have to pay because they're Nike. I mean, honestly, it won't surprise me if Tennessee loses some recruiting interest because of that, because Nike is just, everyone wants to wear the swoosh. Nike is one of my favorite brands. Obviously, had the controversy there for a little while because a lot of people were mad about them supporting Colin Kaepernick in his fight to get back into the NFL. But since then, that was a long time ago, and I think people, overreacted that just a little bit. But I guess Tennessee just didn't want to match $20 million a year, and they definitely weren't going to turn Tennessee into its Oregon. Or Nike didn't want to match that. They weren't going to turn Tennessee into Oregon because they have no reason to. Because Tennessee, they have been on the come up the past few years, but who knows what Tennessee is going to look like this year, given they don't know who their quarterback will be, and who knows how good Joey Aguilar is anyway. If I said his name right, but after seeing what Nike gave South Carolina, who moved away from Under Armour, I mean, I guess I can't blame Danny White for chasing the money. As long as they don't pull out those uniforms that they had in the early 2010s. Adidas couldn't even get smoky grays right. Nike's taking a bit of a step back in the past couple years. I mean, I know the athletic department has tried to, throw some, old accents into the smoky gray uniforms. I actually am kind of a fan of the ones this year, but overall, I just don't. Overall, money-wise, Tennessee made the right decision, but like I said, please get it right, because I'm a swoosh guy through and through. I wish Tennessee had stayed with Nike, but the foundation has been laid. The foundation's been laid enough to where Adidas can't get this too wrong, right? You would think so, right? Who knows? But just a little break from the content here for a second. If you're just tuning in, like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Keep supporting us as we move closer to monetization status. Hit that bell button to get notified when we drop our live content. We will be ramping up here now that football's here. Now that the studio setup's getting I guess my equipment situation's getting settled, I should say. But overall, there's going to be a lot of new stuff rolling out over the next few weeks in terms of giveaways, in terms of merchandise and whatnot. I'm really looking forward to revealing all of that stuff. And I've been working on my book as well lately. I had to unfortunately go through another process of renaming and, breaking away, saying goodbye to TV news is not really appropriate because that's not what my life revolves around anymore. I've moved beyond that. Maybe should lay off the caffeine a little bit, but that tastes damn good. So last topic of the show for the day before I let you all out of here, because we will be doing another live one tomorrow. Of course, can't get through podcast without talking about the Ravens. Lamar obviously had his foot stepped on at practice, missed practice today. X-rays were negative. John Harbaugh said he was praying. Of course, who wouldn't be praying for your superstar quarterback to be okay, regardless of what happens? If Lamar gets sacked and if he throws the ball and the camera pans back to him and he's just on the ground, I'm going to be saying a prayer. If he's tripping over a player, I'm going to be saying a prayer, because the Ravens go as Lamar Jackson goes. But Adam Schefter goes on and gives a bit of a, I can hide the lower third here. I mean, he wasn't really putting on his reporter hat here. Obviously, those of us who have been in the legacy media industry know what the reporter and difference between a reporter and analyst hat is. And I mean, his opinion basically was, I think it might be more scary than they're letting on. Why would John Harbaugh pray if it was okay? I mean, I think it's one of Adam Schefter's worst analytical performances in terms of just being a pundit. But Lamar doing what Lamar does, obviously, and laugh reacting to it on Instagram. I think that says everything we need to know. As we all know, Lamar is a man of the people. I would know firsthand. Had many interactions with him on social media. But I think that says all you need to know. I mean, we're now, I pull up the wrong lower third. We're now less than 2 weeks away from the regular season. Well, yeah, official. Ravens starting just a little over 2 weeks, but at Buffalo, Sunday Night Football, I cannot wait. And I cannot wait to see this new version of the Ravens, because this is the year. They have no holes in their roster. There's some question marks here and there. vague question marks. But other than that, they are stacked across the board, and all it comes down to is just getting it done when it matters most. And I know it's a lot easier said than done. We'll see what happens this year, but it's got to be the year they put it all together, because this team is going to look a lot different next year, regardless of the outcome. And will they still be in contention status? Yes, but they're not going to be. I mean, they could easily get the 1 seed in the AFC this year if they don't drop the ball. Buffalo could too. That's why this game in week 1 means so much, because the Bills have a cakewalk of a schedule. If you haven't checked it out, go online and look. Their division is soft as baby shit. I don't think I've seen a weaker division since the Patriots were ruling that same division, back when the Bills were a perennial loser. But obviously, before we get out of here, see if we got some more comments in the chat. Right by you. You have to be a junior for a discount. OJ had a knife at whose throat? OJ had a knife at his ex-wife's and Ron Goldman's throat. That's whose throat he had a knife. Stacked like a can of Pringles, Burrow Jackson. I mean, one's a 3-time first-team All-Pro. Joe Burrow hasn't even made a second-team All-Pro. One's got 2 MVPs, should be a 3-time MVP. One's got none. Joe Burrow's been to 1 Pro Bowl as an alternate. But, yeah, he's the best quarterback in the division, yet he's missed the playoffs the last 2 years. Probably will this year. Meanwhile, Lamar's going in after a season that he threw 41 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, the best touchdown-interception ratio in NFL history. After some said he should switch to wide receiver, the most dynamic dual threat ever. You've got a stacked receiving core. Zay Flowers and Bateman are no joke. D-Hop's your third guy. Yeah, they're not chasing Higgins, but they don't need chasing Higgins with Mark Andrews at tight end, with Isaiah Likely at tight end, with Derrick Henry coming out of the backfield. I mean, can you stop the Lamar, Derrick Henry read option? No, we saw that against Pittsburgh. You cannot. And then you go to the defensive side of the ball. You have a very solid group up front, led by Nnamdi Madubuike, Kyle Van Noy, Adafi Owe. Mike Green was the most prolific pass rusher in college football last year. He's looking real good in preseason. First-team All-Pro linebacker Roquan Smith, first-team All-Pro safety and Kyle Hamilton. Malachi Starks is looking all the part of a future Pro Bowl safety. First-team All-Pro Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins at cornerback. You got Jair Alexander as a third guy with Cheeto Awuzie. I mean, that's a pretty good, damn good defense. That's a pretty damn good team across the board. Stacked like a can of Pringles. Come on, my guy. Come on. Joe Burrow going to the Super Bowl and losing doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. I mean, yeah, I've been on the record saying the Ravens need to get it done, but the Ravens not going to the Super Bowl. I mean, going to the Super Bowl and losing 4 years ago does not make you a better quarterback than Lamar. It doesn't. He throws short curls to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and they take it 70 yards to the house. But yeah, everyone sits here and says, oh my God, ball placement. Ball placement is good. But at the same time, give Lamar T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and see what he does every year. Lamar won MVP with Seth Roberts, Willie Snead, and Hollywood Brown. We haven't seen what Joe Burrow could do without the best receiving core in football ever in his career. So we'll see. We shall see. I am very much looking forward to it because I know I'm going to be right. So what's better? How many 400-plus passing yard games what does it matter if you throw for? Well, he's had some, but guess what? He still threw for 4,000 yards and 41 touchdowns to 4 picks. 400 yards passing games when you've missed the playoffs the last 2 years don't mean anything. When you have to play from behind and you throw the ball, but look at Burrow's numbers last year. He threw the ball at least 15% more than Lamar did. Lamar's never had more than 500 passing attempts in a season because he hasn't had to, but he still threw for 4,000 yards. He's still got more 5+ touchdown games than Burrow. And in fact, actually, there's only one quarterback in NFL history that has more games with more touchdown passes than incompletions, and that's Lamar. 400 plus yard passing games mean nothing. Ask Matt Stafford in Detroit. Ask Matt Stafford in Detroit. Now that he has a Super Bowl ring, everyone looks at him as he's this all-time great, but all everyone said about him before was that he was a loser. 400-yard passing games don't mean anything if you don't get it done. But but in terms of you saying 2 MVPs or a Super Bowl loss, I'd rather have 2 MVPs because the Bengals aren't getting back to the Super Bowl. They don't have the defense to do it. Everyone is saying Caleb Williams will more than double his first-year passing yards. I mean, he could. He could. I mean, he should. They did roll at the end of the year, but at the same time, it didn't matter. I mean, they can't beat the Ravens. They couldn't beat the Ravens last year with Joe Burrow going off. Joe Burrow's 1-6 against Lamar. Yeah, they do have a terrible O-line, but their quarterback had something to do with that because he only pressured the organization to pay Jamar and T. And we know they don't have the most money in the world. I mean, at least they spent for somebody. They didn't for Carson Palmer. But I mean, I don't know. This football discussion's got me really excited for the season. Like I said, this is I know this is the last run for this group as the Ravens stand. I mean, Derrick Henry and Lamar will be back. Zay will probably be back. Bateman just signed an extension. Mark Andrews will probably be gone. Who knows what'll happen with Jair Alexander if he'll get, an ideal world he stays healthy, which I don't know if that's going to be the case because hasn't practiced in full, he hasn't participated fully in practice since August 9th and obviously had, a cleanup procedure that John Harbaugh won't specify for his knee, and he had it drained back in July. Obviously, we saw that coming as a low-risk, high-reward situation, but I mean, at least you got some depth in the secondary now. And like I said, you can't sit there and say Nate Wiggins isn't going to be a star cornerback and that Malachi Starks won't be a star safety alongside Kyle Hamilton, who's already probably the best safety in football. The only question mark that the Ravens have is health. Can you stay healthy? And they are fortunate to stay healthy the last 2 years relatively without Zay and Keaton Mitchell. But from 1 to 53, outside of the Philadelphia Eagles, there's not a more complete roster on paper. Now, I know that doesn't always matter, but and the Ravens are the king of the regular season anyway. So, yeah, see, at least I can objectively speak about my feelings. I know they have to get it done when it matters most. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the gap between the Ravens and everyone else in the AFC North is significant. And barring Cincinnati scoring 50 every game, I don't see how they're going to be able to compete with them. And that's not even hating. The Steelers, I mean, come on. Really? They'll be 10-7 or 9-8 again, and they'll avoid getting a very high draft pick to get their next quarterback. We know it ain't going to be Aaron Rodgers. And then Cleveland's just a dumpster fire starting Flacco, that's going to be so funny. I know it didn't really mean much when he was playing when the Ravens opened against the Jets a few years ago. But now that he's coming back to Baltimore, I know the Ravens are going to embrace him and the Ravens fans are going to embrace him. But as I've called him for the last 10 years now, he's Joe Flacco, and I cannot wait to – I wish I could be in town for that game because a lot of Ravens fans probably wouldn't like me. In fact, in the We Are the Ravens Flock group that I'm in on Facebook, they always get mad at me when I say that, saying it's disrespectful. No, it's not disrespectful. It's the truth. He was elite for 4 games. And that was the best 4-game stretch of my life as a football fan, but it never happened after that ever again. And he was more than compensated for it. And in fact, I don't blame him for trying to stay on and get all this additional money, even though it's nothing compared to what the Ravens gave him because he's got like 7 kids. And I guess he just wants to take care of them for as long as possible without relying on his pension. But we're going to be getting into full season predictions next week. Can't wait for that. We're going to predict every division. I'm going to start having people on. I might even start a call-in line to give some of you that really want to come in here to the comments and hate on me, give you a chance to voice your opinion and let me respond to you live on the air because that'd be fun. I'm all for it. I'm all for some good debate because I back my stuff up with facts, baby. Numbers back everything up that I say. It's not based on generalizations or anything like that, but it's going to be a fun season. We're going to be doing a lot of featured bets on DraftKings. Cannot wait for those. We're going to be making preseason bets. And overall, it's just going to be a fun ride. It's just going to be a fun ride. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing where it takes us. Be sure to tune into the show tomorrow night. We're going to be doing another live stream, and I'm going to be posting the new schedule for the show now that football season's coming here early in the next week. But be expected. There's going to be a lot more changes rolling out, and I cannot wait to get this stuff going and getting it on board because, I've been waiting for football season for a long time. I can't even sit here and say that I enjoy the NBA Finals as much as I could have, simply because, I mean, even though it was a 7-game series, it doesn't give me the rush that football does now. And I guess I can unapologetically say that. But for those of you that tuned in for the Erik and Lyle Menendez portion of the show, we'll see if we've got any update on the said older brother's parole hearing. And we still have no decision yet on that, given that it's out in California. It'll probably take a while. But thank you all for tuning in to another edition of the Cory Standing Show. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Dislike it if you didn't. Comment. Let me know your opinions below. And most importantly, click that bell button so you get notified when I drop my live content almost every week. But thank you for tuning in. Again, our sponsors of the show, the Knoxville Ice Bears Foundation. Be sure to check them out on Facebook and Twitter, and we'll see you on the next one.